do you think there was another All-Star potentially on this team? Maybe I don't want to say a guy got snubbed per
Well, I would say
se, but
Kenley Jansen. I mean, if you're looking at like true numbers and you want to compare him and Clay Holmes, like Clay Holmes is 1-3 with a 3 ERA. Uh, Jansen's 3-1 with a 2 ERA.
well, guys, we got a very special edition of Sox Talk with Will Middlebrooks today. I'm your host, Greg Dudek. After a couple of months of chatting Will up about the most major storylines of the Red Sox season over the phone, we decided to take this to video, make this a nice little video series. But let's get to the reason why we are here today, and that's to hear from the man himself. Will, how you doing today?
Awesome, man. So yeah, normally if we're in person, we'll say this feels like it's in person. Normally I'm in Watertown at NESN with you, so a little different being at home. I got the kids in another room. You could hear them at any point and just totally ignore it. All right.
Awesome. Perfect. Perfect. Wouldn't be the Middlebrooks household without the kids running around. Your daughter's turned into a internet star overnight with the Yankees
Oh,
lose there.
what'd you say? The poopy Yankees. Poopy Yankees. Yeah, we got to raise them right around here. Start them young.
You're gonna have to send that out now every single time the Red Sox beat the Yankees.
Don't
But
tempt me. You know
uh
I will.
you were obviously around the team for this last road trip in Miami when they faced the Marlins, and obviously in the Bronx facing the Yankees. They're right in the thick of things now, taking five of six, I believe, right on that road trip. What's kind of just the vibe around the team as we push later into the middle of July and into summer, and people are going to start looking at those playoff standings, and they're right there in the wild card race. Just kind of what's been the vibe around the team during this road trip?
uh, they believe, right? And I think people who are around, not that it took to this point for this team to believe. I think they have for a long time, but it's taken this stretch they've been on the last month or so for everyone else in the city, in the area, in New England, around the country to really to get their attention, to people to say, oh, this maybe this team's for real, right? Because obviously you lose Trevor Story, you lose Tristan Casas, who everyone thought was on his way to being an all-star. Luis Giolito, who was the biggest addition in the offseason, who was going to be your ace and your opening day starter, he doesn't throw a pitch for you after 2 weeks into spring training. So at that point, you're thinking the wheels have fallen off. This could be another grind of a season just to keep their head above water. If they're finished at 500, great, right? They overperformed at that point, right? This team wants more, and you're starting to see some emergence from this young core group of players led by Jarren Duran. Brian Bayo not having a good season, but you got to think the longevity of that career and in the next few years, he's going to be a dude. He's got the stuff. He's got some things to work on, but he's still young, and I think he'll be fine. But we're going to hopefully get Casas back in the next month or so. You have Ceddanne Rafaela, who is leading many categories offensively and defensively in center field when it comes to rookies in baseball, not just the AL, but baseball. Wilyer Abreu, another guy who's slowed down as of lately after coming off the IL. But to my point, there's a very young core, controllable group of players there that at this point, I think you can be excited about, not just for this year, but the future, and hopefully get some veterans around them over the next, hopefully, month and over the next year or so to really bolster this team and get better moving forward.
I mean, we've seen in the last couple of years, right, where they aren't in the wild card race, playoff race by, August, September, and they're calling up that young core like you kind of mentioned there. How important is the experience, even if, say, they don't make the playoffs, just being part of meaningful games late into the summer, end of August, early September?
Oh, it's important. Absolutely. I mean, one of the hardest things, one of the biggest separators in the big leagues is experience, right? And that's the difference between the young guys and the guys who've been there, we'll say 5 or 6 years, is they've had the opportunity to play meaningful games late in the season where you feel that pressure. And the pressure is different here than maybe Texas or Kansas City or LA. It's different. It's totally different playing
Absolutely.
in New England come September, comes early October, even meaningful games in August, which it probably will be the case because this is going to be one of those fights for a wild card spot because there's a lot of teams that are very similar in record. You have the Houston Astros making a run now at the AL West. I still think they win the AL West, but then you have to deal with the Mariners, who are a good late season team. They have been the last couple of years. The Texas Rangers, who you got to think are going to get healthy and get better, but now we're starting to hear that they're going to sell everyone. So who knows with them? Minnesota's good. Kansas City got better in the offseason. They have pitching. They're going to be in it. They're probably going to be buyers at the deadline. So this is going to be a grind from this point on into the end of the season, just that back and forth in that third wild card spot, maybe out of a few days back. Maybe they get hot and can get in that second spot because they're not far behind Minnesota right now. It's going to be fun. And the meaningful games started already. Yeah. Just so you know that these games have started just because of everything I just told you, and they're aware of that in the clubhouse. They might tell you we're not worried about the standings, we're not watching it. Alex Cora is very transparent with that stuff and says, "Yeah, we watch it, and we want to get greedy. We want to try to get past the Yankees in the division, which is a very doable thing right now, considering what their roster's doing now. Yeah, they're not far away from them. They showed they can beat them in their own stadium. They took care of business at Fenway against them. They're going to play them a couple more times. But that team doesn't look good right now. And it's all based around Soto and Judge. And if those guys aren't there or aren't performing or aren't healthy or they have injuries like they always do, they're going to be in trouble as well. So, look, this team's in the mix. We talk about them being fun. It's past them being fun at this point. Yeah, they are fun, but they're also a good baseball team. They're well coached. They're disciplined. And which is rare for a young core group like this. That's why I'm hoping there can be some type of addition to the pitching staff because we're looking at guys like Cutter Crawford and eventually Brian Bayo and Tanner Houck, these guys are all reaching their max limits they've ever thrown in the big leagues. So at some point you're going to see some fatigue. I think we already have. Cutter Crawford had that rain shortened outing a couple outings ago where it kind of saved him. He basically got 10 days rest. And I think that really helped him. He had his last outing, which was 72 pitches. He worked through 6 innings, so he didn't throw a ton of pitches there. 68 pitches yesterday in 7 innings. He was dialed in. So he's not throwing a ton of pitches right now, which is ideal for him when he's reaching that limit. We'll call it limit. He's going to go past it, but just that threshold of how many innings he's thrown in his career, and that matters. So if I'm Craig Breslow and I'm that front office, I see that. I'm aware of it, obviously. And I'm trying to find a veteran arm, a guy who can not only eat innings, but be effective. Maybe even a guy who can be like a swingman, fifth starter type. So I'm looking at like 2 guys to add just to add depth because there's not a whole lot in AAA. Cooper Criswell's there. He's shown to be effective, but you don't want to have to lean on him if someone goes down. If someone goes down, then you have Winkowski and Criswell in your rotation. And I think that could hurt you in the long run down the stretch.
You were talking about this team being fun, but what is fun is the Red Sox having 3 All-Stars named to the American League team. Jarren Duran, Rafael Devers, and Tanner Houck. Just kind of want to get your thoughts of seeing those 3 being named. I think Duran was the one, right? We were all kind of thinking he should be, whether he was going to be or not. There was a lot of campaigning going on in that Red Sox locker room for him. I guess for him specifically, what's it like to see a guy like that who, when he got named last night, the first thing I thought about is this guy went from guy who lost the ball in the twilight at Fenway and was kind of mocked and ridiculed for that and has turned into this all-around weapon, a very deserving all-star. What's it like to see someone like him kind of transform and get this kind of big honor?
You just feel proud of him, right? Because like you said, we saw him at his lowest low in the big leagues, and unfortunately for him, it happened within the first year really of being in the big leagues, his first full year spending time at the major league level. And that's really deflating for a player, for the human being side of it. You remember him chirping at fans. He had the misplays defensively, which snowballed into bad offense and bad base running into more bad defense. And he really doubted himself as a ball player, as a human being. And he's been very open about that, which hats off to him because that's even harder to do is to open yourself up and be vulnerable like that in a market like Boston, where you are a Major League Baseball player and you are looked at like a superhero here, right? And you're supposed to be unbreakable. So for him to show some weakness, and vulnerability in that time. I think really, I'm sure it helps someone out there. That was I went through similar stuff like that early in my career, but I kept it all to myself because that's what we were supposed to do. You're not supposed to talk about it. And I wish I had, looking at what he had done, I wish I had done it because I'm sure at some point it would have made me feel better. My teammates would have respected me for it. Who knows? It's a different time, right? That makes me feel
Yeah.
old, but it's a different time. And but as far as the baseball player goes and the human being goes, we give Jarren Duran all the credit, but I also want to say Alex Cora played a very big part in this. The rest of the coaching staff, and his teammates that he leans on because he's a very private person. He's let me in a bit over the last year, and we've gotten much closer and talked a good amount about things, both baseball and off the field things. And he's a cool guy, man. And he just, I hope this success leads to not more success in baseball, but more belief in himself. And I think if he believes in himself and he has more confidence in himself and that, look, I do belong here, we're going to see this baseball player bloom into something even more special, which is hard to believe. But the fear of failure is paralyzing. I'll tell you that. And that he's fought that through his career and still came out on the other side of it. So it's been really cool to see him grow as a human being. It's been cool to see how his teammates feed off of him, how the city has fed off of him. And he is the epitome of an all-star in my book, and he has truly earned it. And not to take anything away from Tanner Houck and Rafael Devers, because Rafael Devers is one of the most pure hitters in baseball. I think everybody knows that at this point. And Tanner Houck he went from a guy who we didn't even know if he was going to be, he didn't even know if he was going to be in the rotation. He didn't know if he was a bullpen guy, if he was a fifth starter. And he's really been our ace this season. He's had a couple tough starts in a row, but that's part of baseball, right? It just happens. He kind of hits that. In his last start, he surpassed his 106 innings that he threw last season. So there's some fatigue there right now. He's going to catch a second win, and I'm sure he'll have a great second half. But there's guys like Connor Wong. If the team was carrying three catchers, he was probably an all-star as well, but they normally only carry two. And Rutschman and Salvador Perez are those two guys. So he just missed, but
I was gonna
he was
ask you
deserving as
that.
well.
Do you think there was another All-Star potentially on this team? Maybe I don't want to say a guy got snubbed per
Well, I would say
se, but
Kenley Jansen. I mean, if you're looking at like true numbers and you want to compare him and Clay Holmes, like Clay Holmes is 1-3 with a 3 ERA. Jansen's 3-1 with a 2 ERA. I mean, it seems if you're looking at closers, like that seems important. I I don't want to dig too deep into say there's Yankee bias, but sometimes I feel like there is. And that, listen, I have Yankee jerseys on my wall. Like there's legends, right? Like that's Jeter and Mariano,
Jeter
obviously. That's
Rivera.
the only ones I'll ever have because I feel like they transcend the game. What Jeter and what Mariano did, being
Yeah.
the best closer ever. But um, I don't know. That was a weird one for me with Kenley, and I wouldn't say Connor, I wouldn't say Wong was a snub,
Okay.
just because they always carry two catchers. I do think he was the third. If you look at like overall production, he didn't hit for as much power as Perez.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
so I wouldn't say he got snubbed. I do think Kenley got snubbed.
With Jansen, what have you seen out of him just kind of this late in his career? He's obviously, on the back nine, but is still, producing, still effective, even though he doesn't have that same velocity that he once had. What has just made him so reliable in that closer role for the Red Sox?
Well, so many times over the last couple of years, yeah, he did lose some velocity, but the command wasn't great. And I think over the last really like month and a half to 2 months, he's coming in games and it's not like, oh, walk, base hit, walk, oh, bases loaded, strikeout, strikeout in the game. Whew. Like that
Mhm.
was like his thing for a while, was like live on the edge but still get through it, but throw 18, 19, 20 pitches. Now we're seeing him boom, 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 10 pitches, done, nobody on base, striking out Aaron Judge with a cutter down Broadway. Right.
Very efficient.
When I faced him, he was 97 with the cutter, but what made it special was like he could throw it down the middle and you would swing under it. Because for whatever reason, it just like had that like he's at his best at the top of the zone, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He doesn't throw it up there as much now because he's at 93, 94. and it's a little more hittable, but I still think at the top of the zone, the way, I don't know if it's just the angle his ball spins with the cut, it's like you see it in one spot and you swing and it just stays above your barrel. It was the hardest pitch for me to get on top. I faced Mariano.
I was gonna say we saw that in the series opener, right? Where the Yankees were just popping up
Yeah.
on
Okay. Yeah.
Jansen,
By the
right?
way, yeah, I was in the booth for that, and I told OB, I said that is the highest pop up. The one Judge hit
Yeah,
that Devers
Judge
got
hit,
over and
yep.
caught by the tarp. That was the highest pop up I've ever seen, man. That thing felt like it touched outer space and came back. Like it went so high, it was so high above the lights at Yankee Stadium, it almost disappeared and then came back down. It was insane.
Wow.
But Verdugo popped up. I think someone else did too. It was just like that's the pitch is he can throw it top of the zone and you're all over it. It looks so good. And naturally, fastball, just because of release point and gravity, they may not look like it on TV, but they are coming down. That's the whole purpose for guys having a slight uppercut swing is to match that angle and be on playing with the baseball longer. For some reason, it's like his is on that and then it like flattens out at the top when it cuts. And it's you're
Gotcha.
on it and you swing and you're like, it's like the invisible. It's like, how did I miss that? I mean, you look at the pitches he threw to Judge yesterday. That's
Yep,
arguably the best hitter in baseball. Maybe not even that big
definitely.
of an argument. I wouldn't. I'm not even gonna say an argument. It's the best overall hitter. Power. Abby's hitting over 300 with. You see the power numbers of the RBIs. 80 some odd RBIs right now is ridiculous. Um,
Crazy.
he threw him 94 middle, and he didn't even foul it off. That should tell you something.
That should send them to the All-Star game right there.
right,
But
right then. You know what? Change the votes. Yeah.
let's get to our final topic. I actually got this off of your X platform, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. You tweeted out a little Ceddanne Rafaela Rookie of the Year, kind of entering the conversation. Right, he had a big weekend against the Yankees. Where do you kind of see him fitting in that Rookie of the Year conversation? You had mentioned it. Felt like Wilyer Abreu was in that conversation, and he's kind of fallen off ever since that, tweaking his ankle on the dugout steps. Ceddanne Rafaela, though, been playing great defense, really coming alive now with the bat after a slow start. Where do you kind of see him fitting in that AL Rookie of the Year combo?
Yeah, I'm starting to think maybe this front office knew what they were doing when they signed this guy. Because maybe we look back in 2 or 3 years and go, oof, that was a steal like some of the guys in Atlanta did. So he's coming into his own. I think his swing and miss has been way down so far the last couple weeks, which is much better. That's like his kryptonite is a fastball up and in that he can't really hit with his bat path, but he also can't not swing at it. So
Yep.
it's been a tough pitch for him because pitchers keep hitting it, hitting it, hitting it. And then you got guys like Weaver who came in the game for the Yankees last night on Sunday night and made the mistake of throwing him a cutter over the plate. He demolishes off speed over the plate, cutters over the plate. It's the fastball up that he's going to have to really work to be shorter to the ball and not get as long because he does have a really powerful swing. And that bat pass, sometimes he loses backside and gets under that ball. So he's going to have to work on that. I know that's a work in progress. That's tough for a lot of players, not just rookies, especially in a day and age where everyone's trying to lift the ball. So, look, in that tweet, I got some heat too because I said he's playing very good, you know, defense at both short and uh, in center
In
field.
center,
Obviously,
yeah.
his center field metrics line up with some of the best in the game as far as outs above average, defensive runs saved, and all that, and just the ground he carries or covers, and the routes he takes, the efficiency, all that. In the infield, his metrics actually aren't great, but I think the eye test is different. And,
I
and
feel, I
Alex
mean,
Cora will say the same thing. Like he's
yeah,
getting the balls, he's making the routine plays, which I think this team was lacking for a
he
bit. That's why they
stabilized
had
them
to
in
get
the
him there.
infield.
Yeah, and until David Hamilton proved that he could play that position and both and swing the bat, Ceddanne was the best option for that position. Now, the best case scenario, David Hamilton's playing there. There's a righty on the mound. Rafael is in the outfield, doing what he does in center field. But if he does have to fill in at short, he's more than serviceable there. He'll make the routine plays. He'll make some crazy plays. That's just who he is. Um, but you look at the rankings, average, extra base hits, stolen bases, doubles, homers. You look at all the rankings, and he's second, third, first. Like that's got to matter. Like he's ranking against all
Absolutely.
the guys he's competing against for that. Yeah, there's pitchers in there. There's the Mason Millers and guys like that who have slowed down a bit. Um, But if he continues this pace, you got to think he's going to be at least a finalist at the end of this year because of the way he's able to impact the team. And especially if this team's a playoff team, that's going to matter too, because people are going to go, wow, this is a rookie who really, he's right with Rafi Devers right now. Like he's in line for 75, 80 RBIs, if not more.
Yeah, second on the team right now, I
He's
think.
second right behind Rafi, which it's like Rafi will pull ahead and you're like, oh, he's going to pull ahead. And then Rafaela 3 knocks, Homer, he'll drive in 3 or 4 and just catch right back up to him. He's like 2 or 3 behind him. So actually, I'm not sure after last night. I'm not sure, but he's not far behind him, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And look, this kid's the real deal. Does he have adjustments to make? Absolutely. He's also a kid in his first year in the big leagues, and he's developing at the big league level, yet impacting the game and being a productive player. So he's special. I think like I said, we're gonna look back on this contract and be like, that was a very team friendly deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see what he does over the second half of the season, but that's going to do it for this episode of Sox Talk with Middlebrooks, with Will Middlebrooks. Excuse me, I should probably get your name right if it's in the headline there. You can find all of these videos and the content we produce from the series on NESN.com. And again, we'll be looking forward to another episode of this in the future. Will, appreciate your time as always.
Thank you, sir. We'll do it again soon.
Sounds good, man.
PNC Bank, rooted in communities big and small.